Both of my parents worked there, my mom and my dad, and they both got laid off.
My husband worked at the mill actually up until 2005, and he received his layoff and had no chance of rehire at that time.
From Kimberly-Clark over to Neenah Paper and then being rebought by the Buchanan Group, it's been really tough on a lot of families.
Like my dad worked in the mill, and so that's been a struggle with him unemployed.
I mean, the biggest challenge is right now, we used to have 2,000 people in Schreiber. We're at maybe 900, maybe 1,000 at the extreme most right now.
My son, when he graduated grade 8, there was only 5 kids that graduated. So, you lose a couple more kids out of that equation, and it's very upsetting.
The history of Schreiber, as a railroad community, we're a function of the railroad. That's why we were here. Back when the railway was being built, this was kind of one of the last pieces across the country, as was the same was true of the Trans-Canada Highway. This was one of the last pieces to be put together that links Canada together. So that's how we came to be, and they're still our major employer 125 years later, the Canadian Pacific Railroad.
When I first came here, I worked on the railway, and at that time there was 4 people on a train. Now it's down to 2 people on a train.
My dad he was only on the spare in the railway at the time. I married my first husband, Con Dugan. We live in Schreiber. He worked for the CPR.
Since then, Schreiber still continues to be a transportation network along the highway as well as with the railroad, and as a bedroom community to Terrace Bay and to Terrace Bay Pulp.
Obviously, the employment numbers have decreased strongly in terms of the railway. There was the Inmet mine, which again provided significant employment. There's no doubt that the most stable employer over the last 50, 60 years has been the Terrace Bay Mill, and we all know there's been some struggles recently.
The mill's been down 3 times now for significant lengths of time. In 2006, when it transferred from Kimberly-Clark to Neenah Paper to Terrace Bay Pulp, it was down for 8 or 9 months. It was closed again in 2009 for about 18 months into 2010, and currently it's been down for about 4 months.
So in 2005, we made the decision to move our family down to Petawawa. He had an opportunity down there, and so the boys and I moved down with him.
My dad would go away. He'd go to like Beardmore, or he'd go to the United States or something, and he'd work. And my mom would stay at home and take care of us, and I'd miss him. And he's still away right now. He's working in Espanola right now.
We moved back in 2007. Because at that time he wasn't really enjoying his work at Atomic Energy and had an opportunity to do a flyout position, which meant he would be gone for 2 weeks and then home for 2 weeks. So because we had a lot of family and a lot of support for me and the kids while he was gone, we decided to come back.
They both lost their jobs, and we actually have to move, so.
My dad was a butcher when he first came. He worked for Cacimo's food market down here. So he decided to open his own business, and that's when we opened our Western Tire store. Now we've been in business for some 42 years, and we're still going. It is a little difficult with the economic times Schreiber's going through, but we're still here, so we got to just keep plugging along.
We opened up the press box. That was just about the same time the mill had shut down, the #1 mill, and then eventually it shut down. And I think at one point there was about 60% unemployment in the 2 townships. It was really difficult right from the very beginning, just because the population kept declining in town and people were losing jobs. Prices have risen, and of course the economy has slowed down, and so it's been a real hardship, I think, for a lot of small businesses in the last few years.
My dad came from Italy. He worked here at the CPR. Later on, he decided to start a little grocery store. I'm in the water business. We bottle water. I'm in the motel business. And I'm also a little bit in show business. My other girl, Dina, she lives here and teaches figure skating here. My son Dominic, he has a sports shop that he embroiders. The closure of the mill has affected not just my business, but every business in town. And things have dropped. The confidence isn't there. And I understand there's the possibility that it would be moving forward and opening up again, and we're all hoping and dreaming that it will.
LSHS is a small school. I think there's about 130 kids.
We are bused to Terrace Bay every day for about 15 minutes, 15-minute commute.
There's not a whole lot for course selections. There's like your basic like math and science and English and art.
If you have one course that's compulsory and then you have a different course that you want to take but it overlaps, you can't take the one that you want to take.
The enrollment in the school has dropped by over 50% from when I first started teaching in Schreiber. It was around 135, I think, the top when I was here. I know it had been up to over 200 at one time when I talked to some of the older teachers. And now we're down to about 42 students, so it obviously you can't have single grades, double grades, and now we've had to go to triple grades, and in some instances you have to have the grades quadded. The nice thing about it is, say you have a student who's not at that grade level specifically, in a triple grade you can move them down in different levels quite easy, whereas some of those boards with single, double grades, they're not going to take that student who might be at a grade 5 level and put them into a grade 3 grouping.
I think that the majority of high school students will tell you that they don't enjoy living in Schreiber, but there's a little part of them that loves it, and I think that when they go away to school they'll miss it because all the kids from college, they come down every weekend.
I enjoy living in Schreiber. It's always going to be my home no matter where I go, just because you know everyone and there's so many people here that like mean everything to me.
The Recreation Committee has been a committee that's been involved in Schreiber basically since the formation of Schreiber. Anything to do with recreation they've been involved in.
If we didn't have the volunteers here in Schreiber, most things wouldn't run because, as you know, we're very in troubled times right now, so we don't have a lot of money to put on a lot of recreation programs, and there's lots of volunteers who do things for very low costs, providing great activities, especially like Winter Carnival. It's totally run on volunteer hours.
The volunteers definitely help. Like hockey and figure skating are run all by volunteers. Like they don't get paid for anything they do. It's all parents wanting to give their kids the best.
Schreiber Minor Hockey has been around for more than 25 years, and we try to just have fun with the kids and provide lots of hockey for them and exercise. We
do programs for seniors, for the adults and whatnot, so we play a very vital role in the community for sure.
And that sort of has developed, I think, a self-reliance in Schreiber that isn't common everywhere.
Even though the mill has been up and down and the times have been bad and good, we've always worked together to get things done and to help people that are really struggling.
Whenever Schreiber has a party, it is a party.
Schreiber's 125th, that was true small town, people rallying to do a big event. We've had lots of big events where the volunteers have stepped up and done an unbelievable job.
The volunteers in Schreiber are fanatical. Like they come out of the woodwork to help. I
mean, you look at the doom and gloom side of things. The mill was down, and there's a lot of bad things. But it was unbelievable the positive energy that was in town there. Volunteers worked for well over a year planning that event. There was thousands of people that come from all over the world actually for that event. Most of them hometown people that made the special effort to come back for that week.
You could talk to people that have never been to Schreiber, and they'd be driving through just on the highway, and they would stop in and see something and go to one of these little parties that they're having or whatever, and nobody really knows them, but they've been there for 2 hours and it's like their family.
I think people stay here because it's their home.
I just love how your neighbor is your best friend.
God forbid someone passes away. I mean, the town rallies behind you.
It's a good town. My kind of town.
Home is where the heart is, I guess, yeah.
When you have Lake Superior, basically in my backyard, you can't beat it.
Because we have a lot of stuff here that nobody in the city would ever have.
I can go fishing anytime I want. I love fishing.
Like, you can't jump on your snow machine in any city and go to camp in half an hour.
If I was a hunter, I could go hunting, you know, during hunting season.
And you know, I think if you weren't here, if you moved away, you'd realize what you really had.
I'm a Lake Superior person. I love Lake Superior. I would not trade that for anything.
So I think the focus will continue to be on the reopening of the Terrace Bay Mill, which I remain very optimistic about. But that will not provide the industrial tax base to the community of Schreiber. It will be for Terrace Bay. Although in terms of employment and a future for the young people, that will be something where the opening of and the sustainable operation of the Terrace Bay Mill will be so important. So, you know, there's no question, it's challenging.
We need that pulp mill running. And hopefully all the rumors are right, and that Indian company or whoever it is that's taking over looks after it for 40 more years, and you know what? This town will always be here.
I think in many ways Schreiber has proven to be extremely resilient through a lot of difficult challenges and whatnot. And before I'd been through the closure of a high school and closure of a mill for an extended period of time, when a mine closed and we lost 140 high-paying jobs. You know, before all those things happened, I was probably fearful. Today, having been through all of the different changes that Schreiber's been through, I no longer really fear for Schreiber's future. I mean, I really have a strong sense that no matter what happens, Schreiber will be here. There's something about the community. I think if you were to come back in 50 or 100 years, I'm pretty sure you would find Schreiber still here celebrating their 200th anniversary and 225th anniversary.
We used to slide over the terraces. Instead of walking, it was shorter if we slide down instead of going all the way around.
There was baseball, there was lots of skating in the winter, lots of playing outside.
Playing kick the can or playing hide and seek or playing whatever we used to play back then.
You know, we have no intentions on moving from the area. You know, as long as we can make a living here, this is home.